Hello, everybody, and welcome back to a brand new episode of the Benchwarmers Sports Talk podcast. And there's a lot to talk about today, and so let's just get right into it. As always, I'm Labi, and I'm joined by Jacob. Jacob, how are you doing today?
I'm doing okay, man. Been a busy, very exciting, we'll say, week, but I'm ready to talk some sports.
Yeah, it sounds great. And I mean, there's a lot of sports to talk about. Obviously, some NHL stuff that we want to get into. And then we might talk a little March Madness as well at some point, and we'll sort of see where we are after that because we don't want to get too ambitious because, we can just go off for 45 minutes on a single topic. Uh, and speaking of that, let's get right into it. And so I know a couple of podcasts ago we talked about the Tom Wilson suspension, and I think things have kind of ramped up a little bit since then in terms of penalties and what's suspension and what's not. And I think going back to about 4 to 5 days ago, there were a couple of incidents. The first incident I can remember was in the Battle of Alberta. There was a hit from Kyra,
Yep.
Kyara. I'm not sure
hmm
how to pronounce his name,
Um,
but
yeah.
Jujar Kyra, I
Kyra.
believe is how you pronounce it.
Jordan Kyra.
Uh, no, Jujar Kyra
Oh,
of the
Jujar Kara.
Oilers. Yeah, Kara.
There you go.
So he hit Oliver Shillington.
hmm
Dirty hit right to the head.
Yeah.
Easy penalty that you should have called. There was no penalty on the play, and then about 5 minutes later in the game, he gets into a fight with Brett Ritchie, and Brett Ritchie pretty much knocks him out.
Yeah.
And then the next day, you have the Brendan Tanev hit on Jared Tenorti,
hmm
and he gets a 5 in a game for boarding when I think the general consensus of everybody was that it was a clean hit.
Right.
And then in the same night, Jordan Greenway gets a minor penalty on a check to the head of Oliver Ekman-Larsson that I thought was like a pretty blatant.
Well, yeah, it looked pretty
um,
like in your face.
yeah. And then Connor Soucy got a 2-game suspension for his hit in that same game, and he got a major penalty but didn't get a misconduct penalty.
Mm.
And so we see sort of 4 incidents all within 2 days of each other, and they all led to different results in terms of like what they were judged, in terms of what kind of penalty they were assessed, if they were suspended or not. And so I just want to throw it over to you. What were your thoughts on sort of those hits, and sort of how is the Department of Player Safety managing this?
Obviously they're not. A lot of these hits are getting past the officials, and then later on getting past like the league. And a lot of this, I feel like, has to do with the circumstances because it's the Battle of Alberta, so they expect stuff like this to happen. It's no excuse though. That Ekman Larson hit was a blatant hit to the head, and the fact that what he only got a 2 minute minor. That was it. Yeah.
Yeah, just a 2-minute minor on the play for checking to the head,
It's
which is,
the
I'll get into why I think checking to the head should just be a major penalty, but that's
well,
besides the point.
he got a penalty for checking to the head. I thought a headshot was an automatic 5 minute and a game misconduct, but I guess I'm not George Peros and I don't know what's going on behind the closed doors. But at the same time, like, it's ridiculous. Like, come on. This is absolutely ridiculous. And you shouldn't have to know if you get hit in the head, if whether or not the other guy's going to face punishment or not. Like, Ekman Larson, if I were him, I would be furious. The fact that he only got a 2 minute minor. A minor penalty for a check to the head. And with the Battle of Alberta, well, the refs are just going to let it play because it's the Battle of Alberta, you know? If you hit Cassian or if Cassian hits you, go fight him. That's literally probably what the mentality is because everyone knows the Battle of Alberta is pretty hot and heated. So I think it shows a lack of consistency, and it definitely shows maybe kind of like a bias, I guess, when certain teams are playing each other and certain players who do the hits. Um, I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of it. I think there needs to be a serious look at the league and the player safeties because players obviously aren't being protected the way they should be when they're getting hit like this.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that from the Battle of Alberta perspective, and once again, first, I just want to say, I'm definitely not against taking fighting out of the game. I think that fighting definitely has a place in the game. But with that being said, we look at Kara getting knocked out in the fight that he had with Brett Ritchie. The reason that fight happened was because of the hit that he had Shillington. Um, if the refs do their job on the ice and kick Kara out of the game for that illegal hit, then that fight never happens because the referees deal with the justice of that's a penalty, you need to leave the game. What happens is, the refs don't do their job, and then Calgary feels the need to take it into their own hands. And so if he's still in the game and he took a run at your guy, obviously you're going to fight him. And so not only did they fail to protect Oliver Shillington, who was the victim of a dirty hit, they actually failed to protect Jujo Kara because he had a target on his back for the rest of the game for committing the hit, and it led to him getting knocked out in a fight.
I got a question for you. I got a question for you before you continue.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Do you think the refs knew that?
I mean, I'd like to think that that's not a. I'd like to think that they didn't keep a guy in the game just so that the other team could fight him.
Right.
But like you said, maybe because it's the Battle of Alberta, they expect certain ratings. They expect there to be some fights. Maybe, like, once again, I can definitely sort of see your point. I sincerely hope that that's not why they're making decisions. But then going to the Tanev hit, and just because I watched it live because I watch all the Penguins games, so the hit happens as he's dumping the puck in. The camera pans to the corner where the puck gets dumped in. Penguins grab possession of the puck. The whistle is blown because the player is injured on the play,
Right.
not because the referee called a penalty. There's no arm in the air from the referee. It was never going to be called a penalty. The reason the play was blown dead was because there was an injured player.
Right.
Then the referees huddle up. They assess a major penalty. Tanev loses his mind. Then they go to the replay and review the call. And so here's the thing. I don't have a problem with the refs saying, because, you miss a lot in hockey. It's such a quick sport. I'm not expecting the refs to catch everything. So I actually was a fan of the referee saying, we have a hit. It led to an injured player. We're going to go and take a look at the replay and make a decision with all the information that we can have, taking a look at it.
Right.
But then the fact that they looked at the hit and decided that they were going to stick with their decision, I thought that was a mistake. There were a lot of people who were, referencing the exact wording of the rules in the NHL of what a boarding call is. Because that's the other thing. Let me ask you, what is boarding in your mind?
Boarding is a check or a hit to the numbers with a player who's unsuspecting or doesn't have the puck in or around their body.
You see, that's what a lot of people would assume. That
Yeah,
is
right.
not actually the definition of boarding according to the NHL. Everyone sort of classifies boarding as you're checking someone from the numbers. You're hitting them from behind into the boards.
Yeah.
That's actually not the case. The case is a player in a vulnerable position getting hit that results into them making contact with the boards.
Are you kidding me?
And so because of that, there were people taking that Tanev hit because the Tanev hit was in open ice.
Yep.
But then the player falls and then slides into the boards, and it's the contact with the boards that results in the injury. But the reason he slides into the boards is because he is checked.
Yeah.
And then there's the question of vulnerable position, because we associate that with your back's turned, you're getting hit on the numbers, and you're getting hit on the numbers like 2 feet away from the boards, which is the most dangerous place to be hit.
And usually the puck's gone, like you're in a position where you're not expecting to get hit.
Yeah, which is the whole vulnerable position thing. I think the argument they made with the Tanev hit was he was in a vulnerable position because he was off balance and had dumped the puck in. But then that leaves, and I think Sidney Crosby said it best, where he was like, it's getting to the point where you don't know when you're allowed to hit a guy and when you're not allowed to hit a guy.
Right. Because
Because
yeah.
typically, oh, sorry, I'll just say one last thing and then I'll throw it over to
Go
you.
ahead.
Because typically, if a guy's trying to reach center ice to dump the puck in, you're taught that you want to go and challenge that player. You want to finish your hit on that player, so long as it's a legal hit and the puck's still there. But he was hit right as he was dumping the puck in. Players are trained to do that, right? I don't think that it should be not allowed to hit a guy as he's trying to dump the puck in.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that um let's look at the hit last night by Lucic against Matthews. Matthews, the puck was gone. He hit him from behind. Matthew made contact with the boards. No penalty. Should have been a penalty, in my opinion. Um, and then you look at this hit, and the guy Jet literally it's not like he dumped it and there was like a 3 second delay and then he was hit by Tanev. No, the second he dumped it, literally comes off his stick, Tanev hits him. And I think that if he doesn't get injured and gets up, there's no call on this play. And I think it just goes to show that maybe the league is trying to get softer and softer with these hits. And like you said, Sidney Crosby said it best, is he doesn't know when hitting is going to be okay or when you're going to get called for it.
Yeah, and there's definitely a thing around having to protect players, and when a player gets injured, I feel like the league and the refs have like a natural predisposition to be like, okay, well, if someone got injured on the play, then it has to be a dirty hit. But that's not necessarily the case. There are a lot of freak fluke injuries that happen on like otherwise clean plays. So I think just because a player gets injured doesn't mean it's a clean hit. Like if Evgeny Malkin's out week to week,
Mm,
I didn't even realize he was injured off of the hit. It wasn't until I saw him go to the locker room. They replayed the hit, completely clean hit.
yeah.
He just got hit like shoulder to shoulder, fell back, and somehow got himself injured. I
Well,
don't
it
know how
happens
he got
sometimes.
injured,
It happens
but
sometimes.
exactly, shit happens. I didn't look at that and say, oh my God, Malkin's injured week to week. You have to throw him out of the game just because he got hurt. No, it was a
Yeah.
clean hit.
And then it goes back to this hit where it's like it's a clean hit. It's unfortunate that he landed in like a very awkward position against the boards, but it's hockey. You're dumping the puck in, you're gonna get hit. Like, keep your head up. Don't look down at the puck. And I think was it Shillington was looking at the puck. He wasn't looking around at his surroundings, which you're taught to do because obviously they're hockey players and they don't have to look at the puck when dumping it. So it sucks that he got hurt, but no way in hell is that 5 in a game.
Yeah, well, with the Shillington play, I don't think the puck was near him, and so that's why I think that was also a dirty hit. Like it's contact to the head, and he didn't have the puck, right? Where with the hit, the Tanev hit, yeah, you talk a lot about, and when you learn to play hockey, and when you're finally start playing contact hockey, one of the things that they teach you is, like you said, keep your head up, but then also it's you don't want to put yourself in dangerous positions, and
Right.
if you are, if you're going to be off balance, if you're going to be skating like nonchalantly into the boards, like into the corners, then you can't do that. And there's a whole taking a hit to make a play.
Hmm.
And that's definitely a thing. But if you look at taking a hit to make a play, a lot of the time, you are expecting the hit. You can see it coming. It's a shoulder hit. You can't just skate around, especially in key areas like center ice where you're trying to gain the zone,
Yeah.
and expect not to get hit or put yourself in a position where you're going to lose your balance getting hit or just not brace yourself for a hit. And I'm not blaming the players who get hit, but at a certain point, you gotta expect that you're gonna get hit in certain places, and you gotta put yourself in a situation where you can receive the hit to the best of your ability. Now, obviously, it's also on the case of the person doing the hitting that they don't do anything illegal, but if the hit is shoulder to shoulder, clean contact, and you're just not ready for it, you're still going to get put on your ass and you can still get hurt.
Yeah.
But that's not on the player.
No, it's not. It's on you for putting yourself in that situation.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so, it just, obviously Tanev didn't get suspended or anything, which is, I would have lost my mind if he got suspended, but, it changed the course of that game. I'm not blaming I think a lot of toxic Penguins fans were like, oh, they handed the Bruins like, we killed off the 5-minute penalty. Sure, it didn't help having Tanev out of the game when Malkin was already out, but the reason we lost that game was because their goalie Dan Vladar, which congratulations to him, first NHL win in that game, just outplayed us
Darth
and stole the win.
Blader
Yeah, so
also
I'm
made
not gonna go.
save of the year.
Yeah. Oh, the stick save on
Oh
Colton
my
Seizure was
god, it was
phenomenal.
disgusting.
Yeah, so I'm not gonna sit here and be like, okay, well they cost us. Like that's why I'm here. I'm here just because I want to see consistency. Because I saw 4 hits over the space of 2 days, and they resulted in 4 different penalties. And then if you looked at the 4 hits and ranked them in terms of which is the dirtiest and which is the cleanest hit got the second worst punishment, which
Yeah.
just doesn't make sense to me. And that's what I'm sort of trying to point out. Like I said, if that hit doesn't happen, Penguins probably still lost because Vladar was insane. But speaking of good saves, Jack Campbell with the 2-pad stack last night, that was a pretty sick save.
Vintage Spezza and vintage Campbell looking like Martin Brodeur out there. Leafs win 2-0. They're now lost 5 of 7. Obviously Jack Campbell was the story last night. He came back after injury after so long, couple weeks. He now has a personal record, consecutive record of 133 shutout minutes. He currently leads the Leafs and a lot of goaltenders in save percentage in the games he played. He has a 967 with a 1.33 goals against average. Wow, it was good to see that win, man. Like Spezza, that shot, and Hyman. If Hyman doesn't get paid money to stay here, I'm going to lose my mind because guys like Hyman you cannot find really anywhere else in the league right now. Did you
I
watch the
might
game?
be I might be talking about Zach Hyman in a little bit later, not to foreshadow anything.
Oh, oh.
Sorry, what were you gonna ask?
I was gonna say, did you watch the game last night?
I watched like the last 5 minutes of it.
What
I
did
was
you?
flipping between that and the Canucks game, which is like, can we talk about how the Vancouver Canucks are only capable of winning games in overtime or a shootout? Like, what the hell's going on there?
Oh, they lost there. Montreal on its 10th game in extra in after regulation finally gets its first win. Um, Holtby is garbage. I'm sorry, I'm gonna say now. Holtby's prime is way done, and he does not. He doesn't. He shouldn't be a starter. Thatcher Demko deserves to be a starter for that team.
Yeah, well, that's why I wasn't all in on the Canucks because I thought they downgraded and like they lost a lot of players in free
They did. They
agency, and I
lost.
think
They
the
lost to.
biggest one was Markstrom in net.
I actually think it's Toffoli on forward.
Oh, we see how he's lighting it up in
Oh
Montreal.
yeah, he's lighting up against the Canucks like he did early in the season. Um, I think Toffoli was actually bigger than Markstrom, but because I knew Thatcher Demko was absolutely insane last year, look what he did when Markstrom went out. He almost took him to the Stanley Cup final, um, or at least the conference finals for sure against Vegas. Took him to Game 7. Man, guy played out of his mind. I wasn't too concerned about that because he's developed pretty well. But Tyler Toffoli was a huge part of that offensive core, and the fact that they lost him as well as Tanev, it it, it really hurt their chances. And I had them coming second this year at the beginning of my predictions, and right now I don't even know if they'll make the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, we both kind of had a picked a team that aren't performing. You had the Canucks, where I didn't think they'd do well, and then I had the Flames, and you didn't think they'd do well, and they're both kind of struggling to
Yeah.
sneak into that last playoff spot. The last hockey story I wanted to talk about, and then I'll let you include any other stories that you want to talk about too, is Mika Zibanejad with a 6 point period and what was a 9-0 win for the New York Rangers without their coaching staff against the
Correct.
Philadelphia Flyers. I don't want this to sound like I'm just piling on to a rival team, so I'm going to pan over to you and ask, what's going on with the Flyers? Because
Flyers suck, bro. They're
we
not
both said that they
good.
were going to be playoff locks.
They
And
lost again. They lost again
even me as a
yesterday.
Penguins fan, like thought that they'd be there, and they're out of the playoffs right now. What's going on?
They lost again 6-1 to the Flyers. 6-1 to the Islanders. Let me just pull up something right now that probably will not but will shock you. So the next Carey Price, okay, Carter Hart. You want to hear some of his stats?
Cat a hat.
20 games played, 18 games started, 8-7-0, 3 overtime losses, 3.83 goals against average with an .875 save percentage. Now, if you thought Frederik Andersen was bad for the Leafs, at least you don't have Carter Hart in net. Oh my god, he is playing like Michael Hutchinson did last year. And this was the guy who's supposed to be the next Carey Price, and he's going to take his team to the finals and win Philly a cup if he can even make the playoffs. I have no faith in this team, and I take everything back I said about them. I said they were going to win this division, and now I'm saying they don't even make the playoffs. Yes, you're a biased Pittsburgh fan, but you're not wrong in what you say. The Flyers currently, let me just pull this up real quick. The
They're 3
Flyers,
points out of the playoffs right now.
how many? 3? 3 points out of a playoff spot. Not good. You're getting beat by the Bruins, the Penguins, and the Caps, who I don't know how they went on, how they're 8-2-0 in their last 10. I don't even know about that. Pittsburgh 7-3-0, which is surprising. The Flyers are 4-6-0. They don't even have a winning record. Like, I don't know what's going on with them. I have no idea what is wrong with Carter Hart. Brian Elliott lets in 5 goals on however many shots, and Carter Hart comes in supposed to help the game and lets in 4 goals of his own. Like, you get a goal, and you get a goal, and Zibanejad wants a natural hat trick and 6 points. You have that too. Don't get me wrong, it was fucking great to watch. Philly get beat up so badly. It was so nice to see, but holy shit, if you're a Flyers fan, I would probably want someone's head on a pike in the middle of the Wells Fargo Center, because, oh my god, I'd be so pissed. That's my rant for the day. Labi, it's all up to you, bud.
Yeah, and well, here's the concerning thing, too. It's the young players are taking a step back if you look at it from a statistical perspective. Because let's look at points. Van Riemsdyk's leading the team in points. Giroux's third, Voracek's fourth, Kevin Hayes, Sean Couturier. Those are all the players you expect. The surprise story has been Joel Farabee. He's been phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
But Joel Farabee's not one of their like prime prospect players that they expected to deliver.
Yeah, it's
Nolan Patrick.
Yeah, there you go.
Nolan Patrick has 6 points and he's a minus 15.
Yikes.
The defensive partnership of Philippe Myers and Travis Sanheim are both minus 10 each.
Yikes.
Shane Gostisbehere 8 points and is a minus 3.
Yikes.
So the only good young player is Ivan Provorov, and well, Travis Konechny's doing well, but Provorov and Konechny are at that point where I don't think they're classified as young players anymore. Like, you're expecting them to kind of break out, and to be fair to them, they're both having an all-right season, but sort of these young players, and Carter Hart as well, included as a young player, all these guys that they thought were going to help, and this young depth was supposed to, complement the veteran presence that they had, and it's the young guys who aren't. It doesn't look like they're taking that next step, and it's actually holding them back, because you can't have a defensive partnership that's a minus 20 and be successful. That's just not a winning formula.
That's not even
especially when it's in front of a goalie with a sub 900 save percentage, right?
I also have more. I have Raptors news after this. Big news out of the Raptors, but yeah, like, you're right. This team is frustrating. If I was a Flyers fan, I'd be super frustrated. Like, you spent all this time rebuilding. You bring in Carter Hart, supposed to be the next Carey Price, but just not playing like that. And Brian Elliott isn't helping either. So, Philly's playoff dreams are slowly but surely slipping away. And I think it's only a matter of time before they just give up on the season, because it looks like they already have.
Well, and when you're in a tough division, right? Like, normally if you struggle, you can get back, but when you're talking about, you have to finish ahead of Boston, Pittsburgh, Islanders, and the Capitals at the end of the season. If you start struggling, it's really, really hard to recover, especially when you're in a tough division like that. It's going to be hard for them to break into that top 4, considering how competitive this division is. And we're even at a point where the New York Rangers are starting to knock on the door of the Flyers. Once again, I still think that the Rangers are still a couple of years away from being that playoff team, especially the way the division is this year. Maybe next year, but still the Metro, I think, is still so stacked that the Rangers are going to have a tough time breaking into that. But, I mean, it just shows you how competitive this division is with the Flyers are going to find it tough to turn around. Before we get into the main topic, let's just go to the Raptors news. I'm assuming it's the Nick Nurse mask situation.
He's been fined $50,000 for throwing his mask behind the scores table, and for directing profanity towards game officials before exiting the court. You know what? It really goes to show that like NBA refs are really soft. Like if you say like the F word, or you call like if you say like "well fuck you" or something to an NHL, or if you say "fuck off" or like they'll just like laugh at you and say yeah whatever. They'll say it right back. Like NFL, NBA refs are super soft and will give you a tech or a penalty at the first sign of the F bomb, and I don't understand why they're so soft.
Yeah, I mean, I
Your
think that
thoughts?
they feel like their authority's being undermined or something, but I definitely agree. I mean, as much as I think that the NHL refs are definitely not flawless and they make a lot of mistakes, you're right. In terms of communicating with the athletes, I think they do a much better job.
Like I get this fine. I totally do, because he threw his mask in a pandemic at like in behind the scores table with spectators in the building. I get that. That's fine. But because what, your feelings got hurt, you're gonna fine him part of that fine too? No, that's stupid. Like everyone's gonna swear when you're pissed off. Like the Raptors are not in a good place right now, and I probably don't think they'll make the playoffs. But I mean, come on. Like, grow up. You're an NBA ref. You're getting paid millions to call a game. Be able to take it and stop being so soft about it.
Yeah, I think they hand out way too many technicals. Because if you think about it, like, obviously they're not comparable, but I guess like a 2 minute unsportsmanlike penalties, like you know, the
But
similar thing in the NHL.
but
When's
let's
the last time you've seen a ref hand a player or a coach a 2 minute unsportsmanlike penalty for like mouthing off at them?
Sheldon
It
Keefe.
doesn't happen.
Sheldon Keefe.
But you'll see a technical called like every night on a player for mouthing off to an official.
Yeah, well, Sheldon Keefe in Toronto's last. Well, oh no, it was when Morgan Riley got a penalty against the Jets, and then Hyman got a penalty, and they were very soft penalties. Like it takes a lot. Like you could say the one F word to an NBA ref, and you're gone. But it takes at least like Keefe was mouthing off for a good 3 minutes, and then finally he got a penalty for it.
And I
Um,
think that's the only time it's been called so far this year. Like I haven't heard of
yeah,
another coach
no,
or
I
another
know.
player getting a penalty like that.
But that's what I'm saying. It takes like 3 minutes of nonstop verbal abuse for finally someone to, for finally a ref to call. Like they can take a lot, and I just hate I hate how the NBA refs are so soft and they give it out like it's candy for Halloween. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. So yeah, moving on to the main topic that we wanted to talk about today, and it's I have assembled a team,
Yeah.
and so here are the rules. I have to get this team under the salary cap in the NHL, so under $81.5 million in salary, and I'm only allowed to pick one player per team. So no McDavid Draisaitl, no
Matthews Marner.
Barkov Huberdeau, no Matthews Marner, one player per team, and that includes, if I pick a coach, I can't pick a player of that team. And so I have a full lineup, and then I also included a 6-man taxi squad, just like how regular teams have it this year. And I have a coach and a general manager, which means that 28 of the 31 NHL teams have somebody represented on this team. I'll let you guess which 3 teams I didn't include, or at least one of the 3 teams which weren't included.
Probably the Senators and
Oh no,
Buffalo.
I Buffalo's one of them. I have a Senators player on there.
Oh, okay. Devils.
He's on the taxi squad, but well, let's get into this. So
Yeah.
let me ask, how do you want me to reveal? Do you want me to go by depth chart or do you want me to go by team?
Go by lines. Go by first line, and we'll try. We'll go line by line, and then we'll tick off the teams as they come on. And then I'll
All right,
see.
sounds
I'll
good.
see if I would have done the same or if I would have changed it up a bit.
All right, so just in terms of general pattern, I've gone pretty big on my top 6
Okay.
and my center depth. Defensively, I went more for solid bargain players.
Okay.
And then in goal, I went with some younger, quality players on cheap contracts. I mean, you can probably guess right now who my starting goalie is just because I keep talking about him every week.
Yep. But let's get
So,
into it. No
okay,
spoilers here.
all right. I was gonna say you can guess who my starting goalie is because you'll probably get it right.
No spoilers. Let's get right into it.
All right, so first line center.
What
Do I
team?
really need to say
Here,
it?
tell me this. Tell me this. You tell me the team. I'll guess the player.
All right, my first line center plays for the Edmonton Oilers.
Okay, I think a person just born could guess who that is. Connor
Yeah,
McSavior.
yeah. So I've Connor McJesus as my first line center.
McJesus. Okay.
$12.5 million cap hit on the left side. I have a Florida Panther.
Is that Barkov? Huberdeau?
It's Jonathan Huberdeau on the left side,
Huberdeau.
5.9 million, and then on the right hand side I have a Boston Bruin.
Marchand. No,
No,
Pasternak.
I have Pasta on the right hand side. So
That's a great.
McDavid, Huberdeau, Pasta
That is a
is
great
my first
deal.
line.
That's a great deal. His deal.
Yeah, so I mean I know McDavid's making a lot of money, and so Huberdeau at 5.9 and Pasternak at 6.6 are
Nah.
just two steals that I absolutely had to pick.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
was kind of tough because Florida, you also have Barkov, who's not making a lot of money. Boston, you also have Marchand, but I decided to go Huberdeau Pasternak.
Fair enough.
Second line center. When I said I went big on my center depth, I wasn't joking. I have Pittsburgh Penguin. He's my captain of the team.
Oh, Sidney Crosby.
Yeah, I have Sidney Crosby. He's only making 8.7, so there was actually kind of room. I
That's
kind
not
of
bad.
designed this team. I designed this team around my four centers, to be fair, because I knew I wanted these four guys to be my four centermen,
Which
and then
is
I kind of built the team around him.
which is a smart decision in my opinion.
I think that's how a lot of teams are built, especially
Hmm.
at least with like a 1-2 center punch down the middle. We've had a lot of successful teams like that.
Sure.
And then in terms of who Crosby would play well with, I have a Vegas Golden Knight on his left hand side. He's one of my assistant captains of this team.
Mark Stone.
No, actually, because Mark Stone makes, I didn't realize he makes 9.5, and there just wasn't the
Yeah.
money to get him on this team.
It's Max Pacioretty.
Yeah, so it's Max Pacioretty on the. I'd love to have Mark Stone, but it's Max Pacioretty. He's making $7 million, so this was
That's
still
not
pretty
bad.
hefty. When I said I went big on my top six, I mean I went big on my top six. They make like over 50% of the salary cap is probably
Well,
committed to the top six forwards.
welcome to Toronto.
Yeah, exactly. And then on the right hand side, alongside Pacioretty and Crosby, I have a Chicago Blackhawk.
Pat Kane.
No.
Um. Uh. DeBrincat.
Yep, Alex DeBrincat. Kane
Nice.
makes way too much money to fit onto this team, but DeBrincat at 6.4. Um,
Well, that's a good deal.
and this is my first sort of would you change differently. At this position, I was debating between DeBrincat or Brock Besser.
Mm. I think DeBrincat's a better choice.
Yeah, so I decided to go DeBrincat, partially because I wanted a Canucks player in another position as well, which we'll get to, but also I thought DeBrincat was the better selection at this point.
Sure. All right. What's the next one?
So for my third line, I have this is going to be like my shutdown defensive pairing line. So it makes sense that at center we have a Philadelphia Flyer.
Uh. Giroux.
No.
Couturier. No, he's not.
Yeah, Sean
Oh yeah,
Couturier.
Couturier. Yeah.
Yep, he's the
Okay.
reigning Selke is the trophy.
Yeah.
Yes.
The defensive forward.
Yeah. Yeah, reigning Selke champion for best defensive forward. He's only making 4.3, so
What?
maybe that's a lot for a third line player. But yeah, once I saw that cap hit, I threw him right into my team because he's just severely underpaid.
That's a great deal. Holy shit.
Yeah, and then once again, Sean Couturier, solid lockdown defensive center.
Oh
Let me
yeah.
get a good defensive speed player to play on his left hand side from the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Mm, from the Leafs,
Yeah,
Kerfoot,
no,
Hyman.
you were just talking about him earlier, Zach Hyman.
That's
Yep.
what. That's the foreshadow.
Yeah, he's only making 2.25. Like you said, he'll probably get paid a lot more after his contract expires, I believe, at the end of this year.
This year. Yeah.
Yeah. But for now, at 2.25, I think he complements Sean Couturier really well because he's a penalty killer, I believe, with the Leafs.
He's a penalty killer, and he's on the power play as well.
Yeah, so also I didn't want to just build the best possible like super team. Like I mean, granted this is a very stacked team,
Yeah.
but it's under the cap and also Couturier and Hyman are my first would be my first penalty kill line as well. So I did think about sort of how this team would function like as a proper NHL team.
Hmm.
And I think you need that shutdown line and so like Couturier and Hyman alongside this Montreal Canadian on the right-hand side,
Right.
who's the
Um.
third edition.
Toffoli.
No.
Peach. Nah, Peachy's defenseman. Suzuki.
No.
Gallagher.
Brendan Gallagher, yep.
Oh God, why?
Because I think that Hyman, Couturier, Gallagher is like an elite shutdown line, and I think if you put them up against like a team's first line as a matchup line, they'll shut them down.
Okay. All right, fair enough. And he is a digger. He does go to the net, and he's a big hitter, I guess. So okay, fair enough.
Yeah, I kind of have him as like the power forward that I need on this team.
Yeah, sure, okay.
And
And then the
I
fourth
would use
line.
him. I would use him on the second power play unit, actually.
Oh,
Kind of like
okay.
how Patrick Hornquist did it in Pittsburgh, and kind of
Pittsburgh.
how Simmons is doing it in Toronto, where you just plant his ass in front of the net, let him be a pest, let the skill players work around him, and that's shown to be a pretty effective power play strategy that a lot of teams are implementing.
Oh, for sure. Okay, what's
So
your
my
fourth line? Fourth
Yeah,
line.
so fourth line center, Minnesota Wild.
Capri, cause the thrill the krill.
No, so also I don't think I mentioned this earlier. I'm only allowed one player on a
ELC.
rookie contract,
Okay.
and so I'd love to fit Kaprizov, but I made sure that like I had to make this player my rookie contract player just because it made way too much sense.
Uh,
So
Erickson.
unfortunately,
Erickson Ek.
yes, Joel Eriksson Ek is my fourth line center.
Nice. It's a good center. He's really shown a lot for the Wild this season.
Yeah, and so just when I like talked about building this team around center, I mean McDavid and Crosby, I believe are the two best players in the world right now. And yes, I'm sorry, McKinnon and Matthews fans, I still take Crosby over them. Um,
I'm with you.
I recognize it's a debate, and like but that's just my opinion. So I wanted those guys to be my top two, and then Joel Eriksson Ek only makes 1.5 million. Sean Couturier only makes 4.3 million, and I think Couturier and Ek as third and fourth line centers, they can score, but like they're most importantly is they're competent defensive players.
Yeah.
They're responsible. They play a 200-foot game. I think that that's the perfect bottom six center depth. So I built my team around those four centers.
Genius.
Um, on the left-hand side of Joel Eriksson Ek, I have a Tampa Bay Lightning player.
Sorelli?
No, so I was so strapped for salary cap that these two guys, the two wingers alongside Eriksson Ek, are making less than $1 million this year.
Joseph.
No.
I don't know. Tampa, who's making less than $1 million?
Barclay Goodrow.
Oh my God, I forgot he exists.
Yep, 925,000. He's a free agent at the end of this year. He will sign a massive contract outside of Tampa Bay somewhere.
Okay.
And then another
Okay.
player who's going to cash in on a contract on the right hand side, he's only making $775,000 this year. He was a beautiful free agency pickup on my fantasy team this year from your Arizona Coyotes.
From the Coyotes. Uh, Not Garland.
Yes, Connor Garland.
He's only making that much?
Yep, he's making $775,000 this year. I
Woo!
don't understand how that's
He's their
possible.
best player.
He's gonna sign a massive contract.
He's their best player. Oh my
Yeah, he's had a
God.
phenomenal season.
Okay, let's go to defensive pairing. I got all but one, so
Yeah, you've been pretty good so far. And so yeah, that's my forward core. Once again, because I went pretty heavy on my top six, and even like Couturier and Gallagher making each around $4 million on the third line means that I don't have a lot of money to spend on my defense.
right.
And so, like I said, the strategy for me defensively to get this under the salary cap was I didn't pick any stud defensemen, but I picked a lot of really good defensemen on really good value deals. And
Okay.
so my first pair of defense on the left-hand side, I have a Carolina Hurricane.
Dougie Hamilton.
No.
Noah
More
Hannafin.
budget. No.
Justin Falk.
No.
Natchez.
No.
I don't know.
Jakob Slavin.
Slavin. Ah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think he kind of gets forgotten about because honestly, Carolina Hurricanes have the most most insane defensive depth. It's insane. Like literally all those players that you just rattled off on the Hurricanes,
Yeah,
phenomenal players.
I
Like I,
know.
I
Like,
would have picked Dougie Hamilton, but he made a little bit more, and so for me, Slavin fit under the salary cap.
okay, so I got two wrong, but I guess the entire Carolina Hurricane defensive core. Let's go to the next one.
This one's gonna be easy. Colorado Avalanche.
That's Makar.
Yeah, like I said, I'm allowed one entry level player. Makar, when his entry level contract expires, he's going to sign a deal where he's going to make $10, $11 million a year. So I'm essentially getting an $11 million player for $880,000 because he's on a rookie deal. This was the only rookie player that made sense. Obviously, there are a lot of really good forwards on rookie contracts.
Yeah.
The likes of, like you said, even Kirill Kaprizov. There were a lot of players where I would have picked them, but they were on rookie deals. It just made the most sense to grab Cale Makar. And like I was thinking Quinn Hughes, but really Colorado. Sure, there are a lot of really other good players, but it just made more sense to pick a Vancouver player elsewhere and then go with Makar.
No, pulling Makar is definitely the best decision you could have done there.
And then yeah, so my second pairing at defense, I think these are two of the most underrated defensemen in the NHL.
Okay.
I have a Nashville Predator who's probably going to get traded at some point this season,
That's Ekholm, isn't
alongside
it?
that's Matthias Ekholm,
Yeah.
alongside a Dallas Star.
Heiskanen.
Not Heiskanen. I believe he's still on a rookie deal, Heiskanen.
I think he is. Is it Klingberg then?
It's John Klingberg. And the Stars have struggled this year, but last year on their run to the Cup final, Klingberg was phenomenal.
Yeah, he was. He sent. Oh no, that was 2 years ago when all the eight seeds beat the first. He scored the overtime winner against Nashville.
Yeah, and I mean Ekholm. Ekholm's making $3.75 million. There's a reason why he's literally number one on everyone's trade board. He's
Yeah.
a legitimate top four defenseman who is not getting paid a lot of money.
He deserves to win, and he's not doing that on Nashville.
No, I mean I can almost guarantee he'll get traded. And then Klingberg's only making $4.25 million, which I was really surprised about. The Dallas Stars have a lot of pretty good players on some pretty cheap contracts. They just have some veteran players that are getting severely overpaid.
Fair.
Looking at you, Jamie Benn.
What's your final pair?
Yeah, so then my third defensive pairing, I have a New York Islander.
Lee? No, Lee's the captain.
No,
He's on.
Lee's a forward.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm doing there. I don't know.
I have Adam Pelech.
Oh man, he's been there
Speaking
forever,
of
hasn't he?
underrated, defensemen, he's only making 1.6 million. I wanted Ryan Pulak, but he makes about 4, and so there wasn't space to put him on this team. But
Right.
Pelech and Pulak as a collective defense pairing are phenomenal. If you watch the Islanders play, first of all, you should watch the Islanders play. Phenomenal system. In fact, speaking of coaches, I was considering just, but Pelech at 1.6 million was too good to pass up. I was thinking of just taking Barry Trotz as my coach.
Yep.
But Pelech at 1.6 million, he should be making like $5-6 million a year. He's a no nonsense, takes care of business, shutdown defenseman, and he's amazing.
Also, quick update: Penguins are leading 1-0 against the Devils.
Yeah, I mean, we're literally, it's Sidney Crosby and the Wheeling Nailers essentially at this point with how many
Okay.
injuries we have.
What's your? I think it's your last defenseman, then goalie tandem.
Yeah, so my last defenseman, he gets the other assistant captainship. People are gonna get mad that I didn't give McDavid an A. Tough shit. It's going. Crosby's my captain. Pacioretty's my assistant captain, and my other assistant captain is this Washington Capitals defenseman.
John Carlson.
Oh, I could not afford that contract on
I
my
know.
third pairing.
Orlov.
Big Z, baby.
Oh
Zdeno
my
Chara.
God,
Get him in the
no.
team.
No, not Chara. Why?
Look,
Why
for
you give him
800
the A?
because he's a leader.
He's a leader, but he's like ancient years old.
Which is why he's a leader. That's why he gets the A.
Oh,
Like, I
okay.
don't give my letters just because you're the best player. That's why Crosby's the captain, because he's the best player and a leader. And then I look at the players on my team. I think Pacioretty and Char are the next two biggest leaders on this team. I mean, McDavid's definitely the most talented player on the team, but I don't think that guarantees you a letter, which once again might be controversial. It's fair if people want to hate me for that. Like, how the hell do you not give McDavid an A? I understand that. I was debating between Pacioretty or McDavid who would get the other A, but if I was the leader of this team, I'd give Pacioretty and Chara the A. Chara's only making 800K this year on a 1 year deal. I mean, on this team, he's a third pairing defenseman. He'll play his, like, easy 17, 18 minutes a night. He'll be a solid player. I'm not expecting him to do too much. He'll get the job done.
Okay. All right. Big Z. Um. I'm still trying to. I don't know. I don't know if I would have taken him, but I guess for the money and the tightness you have on that team, I guess okay. So what's your goalie tandem?
Well, I'm not even going to say the team. I'm going to just let you announce who my starting goalie is because I'm sure you know.
Jari, isn't it?
No, no, I picked Crosby as a Penguin. Come on,
Oh,
which goalie have I been talking up the entire season from your New Jersey Devils?
that's right. Coming in at losing the Stanley Cup in 5 years, Mackenzie Blackwood.
Yeah, so Mackenzie Blackwood's my starting goalie. At $2.8 million a year, I think it just made the most sense because all the stud goalies make so much money. And like I said, I really invested a lot of my cap into my top six forwards. I was always planning on Mackenzie Blackwood being my starter. Like, are there better goalies? Sure. I wasn't throwing away $9 million at Vasilevsky because I'd rather put a more talented team in front of a player like Mackenzie Blackwood.
Sure. Okay,
And
so who's your
then
backup?
from the Vancouver Canucks.
Demko.
Yeah, Thatcher Demko's my backup.
I would have put Demko ahead of the way they're playing. I would have put Demko ahead of him. That's just
Well,
my
yeah, here's
personal.
like Blackwood and Demko are my two goalies. Like I don't see it as like I would have Blackwood as the starter, but I agree with you. I think it's more of like a rotational sort of two goalie system that I would probably play with those two goalies.
Sure.
Demko's only making $1 million, so it was just a big no brainer. I go back to the DeBrinket Besser situation. So it was either going to be DeBrinket with Demko in net, or
Right.
it was going to be Besser with Kevin Lankinen in net.
Okay, but wait, both of them are not terrible. I'm assuming one of them is on. Oh, right, but I'm assuming. I mean, you can't do that because I was gonna say I'm assuming one of them's on your taxi squad, but you both have players from different teams.
Right, so I decided to use my Blackhawks pick on DeBrinket and my Canucks pick on Demko. Just because, as much as Kevin Lankinen's been phenomenal, I think Demko, from his junior year, from his year last year in the playoffs, he's shown me more consistency, or at least a longer period of success.
Sure.
Where Lankinen, I'm basing it on 25 games, which is a lot more of a risk. Where I think Demko is the safer pick in net, and I also thought that DeBrinket, as you agreed, was the better pick over Besser. So I think it kind of worked out both ways.
Okay, so then who's your taxi squad? Let's go into that.
Before I get into the taxi squad, head coach and general manager.
All right.
I'll do the general manager first, just because I feel like it's a complete no-brainer, and then maybe a controversial head coach, which I figured was going to be like my most controversial pick.
All right.
Uh,
GM, what team?
My general manager is the Detroit Red Wings. It's Steve Yzerman. I mean, I wasn't
Stevie.
gonna pick a Red Wings player, so it just made them like he's the best general manager in the league. He won the Tampa Bay Lightning a Stanley Cup and left before he got the chance to win it with them.
Okay, what team is your coach from?
The Columbus Blue Jackets.
Oh no, really?
Yeah, this is my controversial pick. I have John Tortorella coaching this team.
But don't you understand this team has like no like actual gritter, like gritters, like he's gonna bench McDavid.
Now here's why I'm doing
Yeah,
this.
justify this one.
Let me give you my rationale, and then you can rip into me because I understand that this is a very controversial pick. I accept that. Um, this reminds me of like I'm not saying that this is an Olympic team because obviously like an Olympic team doesn't have salary cap restrictions, but this is a very stacked team. Like I believe that this team would easily win the Stanley Cup. Um, Mike Babcock was unsuccessful as a Toronto Maple Leafs coach because he didn't realize the team's strengths, which was the team was very top heavy. He needed
Right.
to essentially at some points only roll two lines, especially late in close games. But Babcock plays a roll four line system. Everyone plays system, which is
Yeah.
why he was such a successful coach of Team Canada, because when your fourth line has more talent than literally every other team's first line, it's very easy to roll four lines. I think that Tortorella is that type of coach. He implements a system. He forces talented players to play smart, to play defensively, and he's a coach who isn't afraid to roll four lines, which I think on this team works really well because it's a very balanced team. And so I don't think Tortorella is going to bench McDavid. Like, you're right. It's definitely a bold coach pick, but I feel like if Tortorella was in charge of this team, he would let the top players do what they need to do. Because Crosby, if you look at this team, Crosby, Pacioretty, Couturier, Hyman, Gallagher, Eriksson, Ek, they're all very capable defensive players. They all back check. They all play a 200-foot game. I think that these players fit in with Tortorella. I don't think that there's a player on this team that's going to, frustrate Tortorella in terms of their style of play. And then also, I think Tortorella is a coach where it works for a very short period of time and then it dies real quick. I feel like Tortorella would be an extremely successful coach with this team in like 2 years. Then the team would get sick of his shit and then we'd have to fire him. But that's sort of my thought process there.
Okay. I mean, I wouldn't want a coach that currently benches his best player because he's not. I don't know. I understand the first one because he was, Line was being a kind of a dick to one of the personnel, but he benched him for not being playing well. Although Line has been playing pretty well with Columbus. I don't know. He degrades his players. I think he makes them feel stupid, and I don't think I'd want that as a coach. I understand your reasoning, but personally, from a team morale, team chemistry, I wouldn't want him as my coach.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I'll let you know who my sort of two other coaches I was considering were. Just because I didn't pick a coach. Like I said, if I was going to pick anybody to coach an NHL team, I'd pick Barry Trotz. But I wanted Adam Pelech as my Islanders representative instead. So when I looked at the teams that I had to pick a coach from, really only three coaches jumped out at me, and that was John Tortorella. The other two were Paul Maurice in Winnipeg and David Quinn in New York.
Why'd you do Paul Maurice?
I I don't think he's a winner.
I mean, look what
I
he's doing
just
with
don't.
Winnipeg. He's a winner.
But is he though? Like, what has he accomplished? Like, what has Winnipeg won?
It doesn't matter. Well, what has Tortorella won? Has he won a cup?
Yeah,
With who?
with the Lightning in '04.
Oh, that's right.
And I
Uh,
think he's got that, like, that Columbus team. The fact that they beat Tampa in a playoff series and then beat Toronto the year after, like, comparatively, he's taken that Columbus team way further than anyone thought they would. I think that Winnipeg probably should have made the Stanley Cup Finals that year they went on that run. When Vegas made the final, that was Winnipeg's year.
Honestly, what I would have done is I would have taken Chara out and I would have put Laviolette as the coach.
I just personal vendetta. I think once again, I think Laviolette is just a overrated head coach who hasn't won shit.
Fair enough. All right, we have different views
I mean,
on
he's
this.
definitely no, a completely different view. I think he's a really good coach. I'm not taking that away from him, but like if you give Laviolette, like if you give another coach the teams that Laviolette's had,
Yep.
it's kind of like the DeBoer situation in Vegas. Like I think
Sure,
DeBoer's
yeah.
a good coach, but he hasn't won shit. And the
He's
fact
got
that they got rid of Gallant is unbelievable.
Yeah, that second time Gallant's been absolutely blown out of. He's a Gallant should have a coach. He'd probably be Seattle's head coach.
Right, and that's why part of me wanted to pick Gerard Gallant as my head coach and say, oh, he doesn't count to any team because
Yeah,
I
he
just
has no
signed
team
him
right now. His
because he
teamless.
has no team. And so because of that, I just picked a coach who was currently on a team. But yeah, I mean, Gerard Gallant would be my head coach over John Tortorella, and I think that's just pretty straightforward.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah, so
Who's your
for my
taxi
taxi
squad?
squad, just to make it easier for you to guess, all these players essentially one player makes 1.5 million this year. Everyone else is making under a million. just so you're aware of sort of who
Simmons. Ben
players
Simmons.
to guess. They're all like depth players. So my three forward taxi squad players. One of them plays for the St. Louis Blues.
Vince Dunn?
No, that's isn't Dunn a defenseman?
No, he's not.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe I should have picked Vince Dunn. Maybe he makes too much money. I don't know why.
Who is it?
That's a good
St.
shout.
Louis?
Sammy Blais.
Play. Oh yeah.
Sammy Blais. I kind of see him as like he would replace like a Hyman or a Goodrow. He's got some speed. He's got a shot on him. He can play well defensively.
Okay.
My second taxi squad forward plays for the San Jose Sharks. Yeah, these are a lot tougher to guess. I don't think you'll get them.
What number?
I'll give you a clue. I had to have a Latvian in my team.
Oh, well, I can kind of guess that one.
No, I can't pick Teddy Bluger because I picked Crosby, and so instead I picked Latvian Rudolfs Balcers from the San Jose Sharks.
Oh, yeah, I was going to get that one. Yeah, okay, sure. Okay, what's the next one?
Really underrated player, honestly. Rudolf Balcers, he's a pretty solid player in San Jose. I'm not saying watch out for the Latvian national team or anything, but like if you think you can just walk over Latvia, you definitely can't. Teddy Bluger is elite. He's unbelievable player.
Latvian Wayne Gretzky, no?
Exactly, and Rudolf Balcers on his wing is the Latvian Mario Lemieux, 1987 Canada Cup. Watch out for Latvia; they're coming for you.
And then, you know that Elvis Merzlikins is Latvian?
Exactly. I'm telling you, this Latvian team, they're not gonna like do anything, but like they could upset a big country at like at the Olympics. Like if you're like a Czech Republic or like a Finland or like even like a Russia, like if Latvia plays a solid 60-minute hockey game, they can challenge. Latvia and Germany are my two underdog countries. Like watch out for them.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
I mean, I think everyone is kind of aware of Germany because Draisaitl and Stützle, but like Latvia, low key has a pretty solid core of players.
Okay, who's your next?
From the Winnipeg Jets, depth forward. He's a grit and grinder, solid player.
Number?
Oh God, I have no idea. Let me Google that real quick. He has a really fun name.
Oh, wow, that's very helpful.
Oh, he's not even showing up when I Google his name. Oh
okay,
my
just
God.
Let me know who it is.
It's Applegate.
Oh, Applegate, yeah. Are you sure it's not Appleton?
Appleton. Oh my, why did I write Applegate?
Mason Appleton.
Yes, his name is Appleton.
Nice.
There you go. I love how I'm trying to praise the guy and I give him the wrong name. As you can tell, we're a very professional podcast.
Yep,
yeah, Mason
we're not
Appleton.
Amateurs.
He's a solid grind player for the Winnipeg Jets. He would be sort of my Brendan Gallagher replacement if he was to get injured or something.
Sure. Okay. Who we got next?
So my two taxi squad defensemen, you won't get either of them. They play for Calgary and Ottawa.
Lindholm?
No, these are like under $1 million contracts.
Oh, fuck yeah, I don't know.
Speaking of guy who just got headshotted, Oliver Shillington of the Calgary Flames.
Nice segue there, buddy.
Yeah, we were talking about him earlier. I got lit up by Jujo Kara. He's a solid player. He's got a little bit of potential on him. He broke into the Flames lineup this year. He's been on and off their Toxie squad in real life. I think he's got some top 6 potential in him.
Sure.
And I think he's a solid young defenseman.
And Ottawa, you said?
Yep.
I don't know.
I have Christian Wolainen.
Yeah, no way.
I had no clue who the hell this guy was until I saw him play a couple of games. He looks pretty solid. Okay. And looking at Ottawa, I mean, if you look, this was like my last pick. I had to pick between Ottawa and then the 3 teams who I didn't pick a player from. And I just looked at defensemen on this team, and he was honestly the best young defenseman not on an entry level deal who was making a decent contract. And so, I mean, it was him or Tony DeAngelo, which I think speaks for itself.
Well, if you didn't pick Torts as your coach, you could have taken Mikko Lehtinen.
Yes, that's very true. That is very true.
Just food for thought. That's all. Okay.
Maybe that's a change that I should make. And then my taxi squad goalie plays for the LA Kings.
Peterson.
Yep, Cal Peterson.
Not terrible, not great. It's just kind of there. I get that.
Yeah, so it was deciding between him and Ryan Miller, and I think that as much as it would be cool to have a veteran presence on the team, I think Peterson's just a better goalie
Yeah, I don't
and
think.
has more upside long term than Ryan Miller. No disrespect to him.
Yeah, but Ryan Miller has a. Ryan Miller's prime is way done.
Yeah, exactly. And so that leads to the three teams that I didn't pick anyone from, which is the Buffalo Sabres. Big shock there. I mean, I would have picked their coach, but they don't have one. But
Uh, don't tell me who the other team is. I want to figure this one out. Who haven't you
yeah,
said yet? Hold up, Dallas. No, you picked Dallas.
yeah.
Hold up, I'm gonna figure this one out.
Yeah, so while you think about it, if I had to pick a player from Buffalo, I would have gone Riley Shahan for the taxi squad. I think he's actually a pretty solid player. I just like sort of what Appleton and Balsers and Sammy Blake can provide instead. Shahan played for the Penguins a bit, so I know a little bit about him. He's just wildly inconsistent.
Okay, so you didn't pick anyone from the Sharks.
I did. I have Balsers
All
on my
right, you have
taxi squad.
Barkley Goodrow. How about no you? Yeah, the Coyotes.
No, I have Connor Garland.
Okay, this is tougher than I thought. So no Devils.
No,
No,
I have
no. I meant no Sabres. No
Blackwood.
Sabres.
No Sabres.
No Rangers.
No Rangers. No
No
Rangers.
Rangers. Okay, that's
Uh,
another one.
their players are either overpaid or all on entry level deals. Like
Hmm.
there are so many defensemen on New York that I would want to pick, but they're all on entry level contracts. Like Libor Hayek was actually going to be on my team,
Uh-huh.
but I didn't realize he's still on a rookie deal because obviously with like European years, it's weird because he was playing over in Europe. But
Right.
yeah, he's on an entry. Like every single player that I wanted to pick on the Rangers was on a entry level contract. So for that reason, I was either going to pick Dave Quinn to be my coach or no one, and so I went with no one.
And the Anaheim Ducks.
And the Anaheim Ducks are the other team that I didn't pick,
Well, I mean, they're
kind of for the
bottom
same
three in the
reason.
league.
What
They're
was that?
bottom. They're bottom three in the league. I don't see anyone coming out of there.
Yeah, I mean they just once again like a lot of their good young players are still on rookie deals. Like it would be nice to have. I believe Trevor Zegras is over there in
Zegras and
Anaheim.
Drysdale, they both scored, and Drysdale got his first, and Zegras got his first as well.
Yeah. So once again, a rookie level deal, so I couldn't have picked them.
Sure.
If I was going to pick an Anaheim Duck, I actually would have picked Ryan Miller as like a third taxi squad goalie. But once again, there were just better options out there, and I was going to
Yeah.
have Dallas Aikens be my coach, just in case you were wondering where he was now.
I can't believe he's in Anaheim.
Yeah, I mean, I just completely forgot about that guy. Like everyone was like everyone was kissing his ass as like the next elite head coach after he did what he did with the Marlies, and then just fell off a cliff.
Well,
Did a
he went to
terrible job in
Edmonton. That's
Edmonton.
why. He went to Edmonton. That's why. What do you expect?
I mean, yeah, that's a good point. That's kind of where coaching careers go to die. Actually, that's where everybody's career goes to die.
No, that's Buffalo.
Well, that too, that too. And I actually want to give a shout out to my initial plan was to actually have Dave Quinn as a coach because there was a player I really wanted on Columbus, but then I didn't realize he was on an entry level contract, and that's Alex Texier.
He's still on an entry level, huh?
He's on an entry level. He's in the last year of his ELC. He's gonna. I mean, I'd assume resign in Columbus. Speaking of players that a guy like Tortorella loves, this guy's an absolute stud. He's
He's great.
French from France.
Oh.
Just like phenomenal player. Like I remember I first found out about him in the Toronto Columbus series last year, the play-in round, and I just kept seeing this guy's number everywhere. I'm like, who the hell is this guy? And then I looked him up. His name was Alex Texier, and I had no clue who the fuck he was. And the entire series, I saw him. He was first to every puck, and the guy was just an absolute monster to play against. And so, once again, I want to shout him out just because he would have a spot on this team. He's just on a rookie deal. And
I
with my one rookie level rule, I mean, I was going to pick him over Cale Makar, which
I
I think is
actually
fair. I don't think he'd get offended by that.
I actually found out about him in his first year in the NHL when he scored in that Lightning Columbus series a bunch of times. He yeah, I was like, who the hell is this kid? And then I watched him. I'm like, this kid's good.
Yeah, he's pretty talented. The other thing that I found really interesting was I went through and sort of saw which country I picked players from.
Mm.
And very interesting. I have 12 Canadians, 7 Americans, 4 Swedes, 1 Czech player, 1 Latvian, and 1 Slovak. No
Mm.
Russians and no Finns on this team, which I found very interesting.
Very interesting indeed.
My initial draft had Patrick Laine and Kevin Lankinen in it, who are both Finns, but then I realized Patrick Laine is probably not the best option when like guys like DeBrincat and Besser are available, so he got dropped. And then, like I said, Lankinen, it was more so I wanted Chicago Blackhawk elsewhere. I mean, I think Lankinen's still a very capable goalie. And no Russians were ever on this team at any point. And I think the thing I want to say about that is I think that most of the Russians who are in the league are extremely successful, and I wasn't going to pick, like, say, an Ovechkin over a McDavid or, like, a Panarin over a McDavid. And so, or a Malkin over a McDavid, or a Kucherov over a McDavid.
Right.
And so I think that's the reason why I didn't pick any Russians. I was very much Crosby Malkin down the middle. I mean, and I'd argue that Crosby Malkin down the middle, maybe I'm biased because I'm Canadian, but I think it's just true that Crosby Malkin down the middle is better than, say, a Kucherov Malkin or a Kucherov Panarin or a Kucherov Ovechkin sort of first line type of thing, which is, I feel like, why there weren't any Russians, because I think all the other really talented Russians, like Kaprizov, would have a spot on this team, entry level contract. And so I think that's part of the reason why.
Fair enough, man. Fair enough. I give everything you said is just makes a lot of sense to me, and I think that's a good way to kind of wrap it up in saying Russia and Finland suck. Let's go Canada and everywhere else in the world.
Yeah, I was shocked at the amount of Americans I had on this team, though, because once again, I wasn't just picking based on nationality. I was kind of just picking based on who I wanted. And then I went back and I'm like, oh yeah, like, I went back and like, I'm like, Connor Garland, oh yeah, he's American. Jacob Slavin, I thought was Finnish or Swedish or something. He's American.
Wow.
Cal Peterson, he's American. I keep forgetting that Max Pacioretty's American just because he played in Montreal all those years. I just assumed he was Canadian,
Well,
but of course not. He's American.
William
Alex DeBrincat's American.
William Nylander is born in Canada.
Yes, but he'll
He's
never
born in
crack the Canada team. So
he's
he'll
born
play
in
for
Calgary,
Sweden.
but everyone still calls. It's crazy to think that. He's always in Sweden on his off times. You think he was born there? Nah, he was born in Alberta.
Well, that's like the Kachucks. Brady and Matthew Kachuk are going to play for the American national team, but they're born to a Canadian.
Yeah, it's
Like,
so
their dad's
crazy to think that.
Canadian.
It's ridiculous.
But because he played in the NHL when his kids were born, and he played on an NHL franchise, his kids are going to represent the U.S. And I mean, they are American because like they were born and raised in the U.S. But
Yeah.
they were born and raised in the U.S. to a Canadian who played hockey professionally in the United States. So,
Yeah, it's wild.
I mean, if Keith Tkachuk had never made the NHL, or if he had just been drafted by a Canadian team, Brady and Matthew Tkachuk would also be Canadian.
Which is really weird to think of, but at the same time, you'd want guys like that on your team.
Yep. I mean, and also if you think of it, and then also I think it's really weird with like the nationalities and everything, and it's an interesting conversation. Like, for example, Alex Ovechkin's son, born in Washington, raised in Washington D.C.
Does he
telling
play
me
for
a
America?
second
Does
that
he
he's
play...
not going to represent Russia if
Yeah.
he turns out to be an NHL caliber player?
Yeah, isn't that fucking like go back to the Kachucks. Dad was Canadian, played in America. Sons are American, playing in Canada. Like, what the hell?
That's actually hilarious too. How they ended up in Ottawa and Calgary. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, they're both playing in Canada. They're playing each other like 9 times this year. It's ridiculous to think.
Which is great to see. I still want to see them get into a fight against each other, but I don't think that's gonna happen.
Yeah, well, I mean, if I don't know, if me and my brother, say example, went to the NHL, I'd fight him every time I saw him, just to make mom and dad proud of what failures we are.
There you go. It's also like Max Domi, for example. Like, if Ty Domi wasn't playing in Canada, Max Domi could be an American.
I still think I don't know why Max Domi's American. Maybe because he's played with American teams his entire life. I don't realize he's Canadian.
Yep. And I mean, I think that this is going to become more and more of a pattern of Canadian players. Because you talk about, when's the last time a Canadian team's won the Stanley Cup? Like, every American team that wins the Stanley Cup does it with at least 12 Canadians on their roster.
Well, Binnington won it. Binnington's from like Toronto or something, or Mississauga, and he won it with their team.
Yeah.
Who won it last year? Tampa Bay?
Last year was Tampa. They have a lot of Canadians. Like, every team has a lot of Canadians.
Let me
Which
let
is
me.
actually, I find it hilarious how the team I cheer for and the Penguins actually have one of the highest contingencies of American players on their team. Like,
Okay,
they're
so
led
so
by a Canadian and a Russian, but like Jake Gensel, Brian Rust, Dumoulin, both of are DeSmith and Net. Like, we have
yeah.
John Marino. We have a lot of Americans on the team.
So let's look at Tampa Bay Lightning, okay? So
Yep.
remember how many Canadians there are, okay? Anthony Cirelli, Etobicoke, Blake Coleman, Texas. I'm gonna go through the whole team. We'll just worry
Steven
about the
Stamkos is Canadian.
Ross Colton. He's playing this year. I guess you can't really count him. Barkley, good. Okay, so I'll go through all the Canadians then. Cirelli, Canadian. Goudreau, Toronto. Yanni Gourde, Saint Narcisse, Quebec. Mathieu Joseph, Laval. Alex Killorn, Halifax. Braden Point, Calgary. Taylor Radish, Caledon. Steven Stamkos, Markham. Mitchell Stevens, Peterborough. And then we got Luke Shen, Canada. Fucking Saskatoon.
Shout out to Luke Shen. He's the
And
absolute legend. What a guy. What a
Curtis
guy.
McElhaney and Spencer Martin. Both, one from Oakville, one from London. That's a lot of Canadians.
Yep. And well, here's the thing. I think it's good that the game's growing. I think it's good that the United States are challenging Canada. I think it's good that Russia, Sweden, Finland has been one of the biggest underdog. Like, for a country that small to have that much NHL talent is phenomenal. And like in the World Juniors every year, it looks like they're competitive. But you're right. I think definitely there was certainly a time where I think the GTA, like Toronto and the surrounding area, could field a team that would beat every other country. Because you just said it there, like Stamkos is from Markham, Tavares is from that neighbor, like PK Subban from that area, like time ago when he was still elite. Like the Toronto and the surrounding area would have been good enough to probably beat every other country. And that's not the case anymore. And I think it's a good thing that we're seeing some growth. But obviously it is a bit frustrating when you see Canadian players have kids in the States and their players, obviously their kids become American.
So I'm going to quickly, to wrap up here, we're going to go through the top 20 players by points that are from Canada that are still active, right? Who do you think number one is?
Total points or points per game?
Total points.
Joe Thornton.
Yep. Followed
and then it's Patrick Marleau.
Nope.
No, then it's Sidney Crosby.
Sidney Crosby.
Then it's Patrick Marleau.
And then it's
Patrick Marleau.
Yeah, after Patrick Marleau, it's
okay. Who? Give me the team.
Buffalo.
Buffalo.
He's won a Stanley Cup with his brother.
What?
Eric Stahl.
Oh my God! Yeah, he's been around for a while.
And then you have Anaheim Ducks.
Corey Perry. No, he doesn't play there anymore. Ryan Getzlaf.
Yep. Yeah. Toronto Maple Leafs.
That's Spezza, not Tavares.
That's Spezza. That is Spezza. You're right there. Boston.
Bergeron.
Yep. Tampa.
Stamkos.
Philly,
Giroux.
Montreal.
Not Shea Weber.
It's Perry.
Oh yeah, Corey Perry plays for Montreal now.
Yeah. Toronto.
That is Tavares.
That is Los Angeles.
Drew Doughty.
Nope.
No. Okay.
He was essential for the 2012-2014 Stanley Cups.
He was essential for those Stanley Cups. What?
Jeff Carter.
Why did I forget about Jeff Carter? Yeah,
of course. San Jose.
Of course. Yeah.
San Jose.
Not Thornton, not Marleau. Brent Burns.
There you go. I was like, how did you forget him? Dallas.
It's not Tyler Seguin because he's American.
Correct.
Jamie Benn?
There you go.
Really? You see, I feel like his reputation has been destroyed over the last year because he's just been bad. But he was a phenomenal player. He was on the Olympic team, 2014.
Yeah, he was. And then you have Boston.
That's the Rat.
Yep. Chicago.
Chicago's Jonathan Tays.
Nope.
Brent Seabrook? No, he's
Nope.
retired. Duncan
Yeah.
Keith.
Duncan Keith.
I keep thinking Duncan Keith is American for some reason, but no, of course he's not.
Nashville. Holy shit! I can't believe you're above some players here.
The Nashville Predators. It's why did I want to say Fisher, but it's not Fisher.
No, it's not.
I believe he's American anyways. But speaking of underrated players, he's an underrated player.
I agree. Some can argue this
Nashville
guy's a bust.
Predators. Nashville Predators. Ryan Ellis.
Matt Duchene.
Matt Duchene. I
And
forgot he plays there.
Guess who follows him at St. Louis?
After Matt Duchene is Tyler Bozak.
Ryan O'Reilly.
Ryan O'Reilly is a phenomenal player. I believe Ryan O'Reilly actually has a shot at making the next Olympic team. I don't think he will, but I think he has a shot because if you look at like the centerman that I designed, like especially the like Crosby's very good full 200-foot player. So is Sean Couturier, which is why they'll both be centers on Team Canada. Fourth line center spot might be Ryan O'Reilly, just because speaking of players who are phenomenal defensively and can score, like people don't give like Ryan O'Reilly when the Blues won the Stanley Cup that year, he won every trophy and he deserved every trophy.
I agree. And then the final two, one from Montreal.
That's Shea Weber.
And then one from St. Louis.
One from St. Louis, Canadian.
Yeah.
Oh God. I love how I want to say Alex Steen, but he's not even Canadian. Just want to shout out Alex Steen. Who the fuck on St. Because like
number 57.
Number 57. That literally doesn't do anything for me.
David Perron.
David Perron. Yeah.
And that's the top 20 inactive players.
Yeah, and they're all Canadian. But then if you look at the top 20 goal scorers in the NHL this year, like they're all Americans. So they're coming for us. They're coming for us.
Buddy, they're on us. They're on us.
And with that,
that's a good way to wrap it up. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. I mean, it'll be great. Like Canada-USA rivalry for the next decade is going to be in really good hands.
This 2022, the 2022 Olympic is going to be absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be great. And with that, we thank you for listening to another episode of the Benchwarmers Sports Talk podcast. If you're listening on YouTube, feel free to give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, or subscribe if you really liked it to steal Steve Dangle's outro. And then shout out Steve Dangle. And then if you are listening on anywhere you listen to podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever, 5-star review would be much appreciated. And we'll see you next week.